Europe. From food shortages in the 1940s and 50s, to butter mountains and wine lakes in the 70s and 80s, to a global agricultural powerhouse, one of the world's top food exporters and the third largest importer. What ties all this together? The Common Agricultural Policy, or in classic EU speak, the CAP. This single policy has transformed Europe's countryside, economy and food supply, and it currently represents nearly a fourth of the annual EU expenditure. So, in this video, we're breaking it all down. What is the CAP? Why does it matter? And how exactly does it help Europe's farmers? Now, to really understand the bigger picture, we need to rewind all the way back to the 1950s and 60s, when the foundations of the European Union were first being laid. Because the CAP isn't just any policy, it's the EU's oldest serving one. Imagine Europe after World War II. You know, cities in ruins, farmland destroyed, rail lines and supply chains shattered. In Germany, the Hunger Winter in 1947 left millions freezing and starving. In France, food production had collapsed so badly that the country had to import grain just to feed its people, despite being one of Europe's biggest agricultural nations. And in Italy, the divide between the rural south and the industrial north had deepened. Small-scale farms in the south were inefficient, poor, and often isolated from markets. It was the Marshall Plan, American aid, that helped Western Europe get back on its feet. But rebuilding wasn't just about bricks and factories. It was also about feeding people. And one of the biggest obstacles? Agriculture. Each of the 6 founding members had their own farming systems, their own rules, their own subsidies, but all faced the same problems: low production, low incomes, and fierce competition by neighbors who played by different rules. Europe was hungry, not just for food, but for a more stable and unified system. And that's where the idea of a common agricultural policy began to grow. In 1962, the big breakthrough finally happened. The then European Economic Community launched the CAP, and the goals were crystal clear: grow more food, support farmers, keep prices steady, make markets work better, and make sure everyone across Europe had access to affordable food. To pull this off, they built a pretty ambitious system. Farmers got guaranteed prices for their crops, outside products faced tariffs, and if the market went crazy, the state could step in to calm things down. Basically, it was Europe's way of saying, "We've got your back, farmers." And the results? They were pretty impressive. Food production skyrocketed. By the 1970s and 80s, Europe wasn't just feeding itself. It was producing way more than the people could actually eat. Ever heard of butter mountains and wine lakes? No, they're not secret holiday spots. They're actually what people call the massive surpluses of food piling up across the EU. Literally, imagine butter stacked in giant warehouses, milk powder filling up silos, and wine being distilled into industrial alcohol. These days, you won't find giant butter stockpiles or vats of unused wine though. The CAP has changed a lot since then. The link between the receipt of income support payments and the production of specific products has been progressively removed. This is to avoid overproduction of certain products and make sure that farmers are responding to genuine market demands. So how does the CAP actually work today? Well, the policy is split into 2 main parts, also called pillars. Pillar 1, called European Agricultural Guarantee Fund, is where most of the money goes. Basically, this is a direct payment to farmers. Think of it as a safety net to keep farming both profitable and sustainable. These direct payments are mostly based on the size of the farm, mostly measured in hectares. But it's not just a blank check. To get the full amount, farmers need to meet certain conditions, especially when it comes to protect the environment. For example, eco-schemes. CAP's way of saying, go green, get paid. Plant cover crops to protect the soil? Switch to organic methods? Improve animal welfare? Do any of that and you get extra support. It's about making farming sustainable, not just for today, but for the long haul. Then there are market measures. Think of these as emergency tools that the EU can use when things go sideways. Prices suddenly crash, demand drops off a cliff, droughts or floods affect the crops. Then these tools will step in to keep the farming sector afloat by boosting demand, stabilizing the prices, and temporarily storing the surplus. And then there's Pillar 2, called European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development. While Pillar 1 is about income support and market stability, Pillar 2 is more about the bigger picture. It focuses on making rural areas stronger, economically, environmentally, and socially. This funding supports long-term projects. Things like building better roads so farmers can get their products to market, supporting young farmers and new farmers starting out, investing in clean energy or biodiversity on farmland, bringing better internet access to rural communities. In short, it's about making countryside life more viable. And unlike Pillar 1, which is mostly managed at the EU level, Pillar 2 is co-financed, partly by the EU, partly by the national governments. The ministers of agriculture from the 27 EU member states convene several times a year within the Council of the European Union to adopt key decisions shaping the common agricultural policy. Today, the CAP isn't just important, it's one of the EU's most significant policies, and it always has been. This graph shows how its share of the EU expenditure has changed over time, from a massive 73.2% in 1980 to around 24.6% in 2023. That drop not only reflects reforms, but the EU's enlargement and shifting priorities. Even so, the CAP's budget is still over 55 billion euros per year and supports over 7 million farmers, helping to ensure a fair standard of living for those who grow our food. So, what does all this actually mean for you? Well, thanks to the CAP and the single market, you get access to fresh, high-quality food from across Europe without even thinking about it. Greek olive oil in a Swedish supermarket, Irish beef on your plate in Italy, no borders, no extra hassle, just one big connected food market that works for you. And it doesn't stop there. EU food doesn't just stay in Europe, it travels the world. French cheese in Tokyo, Polish apples in Dubai. These exports bring money back home and help making the EU a more prosperous place for all of us. But it's not just about variety and trade, it's about sustainability too. The CAP helps farmers modernize and go green, which means fewer emissions, healthier soil, and better food systems. And that benefits you, your health, and the planet. In fact, nearly 40% of today's CAP budget goes to eco-friendly farming. Not bad for a policy that started in the middle of a post-war food crisis. Enjoying these explainers about EU topics, that's what we're all about. In under 10 minutes, we break the EU down in a way that actually makes sense. So, if you want more of that, give us a like, subscribe, and check out the next video on your screen, around here somewhere. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!